You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 75. Putting the pep in your entrepreneurial step with Tami McVay. If you are an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. The Productivity Straight Talk podcast is sponsored by my very own signature training and coaching program, Stop, the Entrepreneur's Success Solution. Stop letting your business run you and start succeeding with the Entrepreneur's Success Solution. To find out more, visit theproductivityspecialist.com/stop. I'm looking forward to bringing this episode to you because you're going to meet our guest, Tami McVay. Tami McVay is a business and lifestyle strategist who supports entrepreneurs ready to up their game, personally, mentally, professionally, and need a little help to take it to the next level. From Marine to mentor, Tami knows what courage, confidence, and commitment it takes to keep driving to make your life and the lives around you better. Through her unique adventure retreats and mentoring, Tami helps people become the leader of their lives. Her motto, lead by lifestyle. Tami is a United States Marine Corps veteran, certified coach practitioner, and American Council of Exercise certified personal trainer and health coach. She left her 20-year corporate career in information technology to follow her passion to helping people become better so that they can make an impact. Tami has contributed to Huffington Post, Outside Magazine, and spoken at Microsoft's Professional Developers Conference. She shares insights on her website and social media frequently. Today's episode is really special, and I plan on doing many more of them. This is an entrepreneurial case study where I talk to an entrepreneur just like you about what their struggles were with productivity, a specific challenge, what was their journey overcoming it, and now what are the results in their business and personal life because they had chosen to overcome that personal productivity challenge. I absolutely love these episodes because you never know what kind of gold is going to be pulled from them. And today's episode was no different. While listening in on my conversation with Tami, you will discover tips to shift your reality to the one you want, ways to ensure you consistently show up as your best self, how to not get lost at sea in the unlimited sea of entrepreneurial time, the benefits of intermediate fasting on your productivity, the impact your hormones have on your success, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Tami. Hello, Tami, and welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Amber.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I really was looking forward to inviting you because I had heard some of your story that you're going to share with our listeners today. And I didn't get to hear it all because I was like, hold on, I think this needs to be on the podcast. So I'm so grateful you're here to share with our listeners some of your experiences and learnings of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, yes. It's been such a journey, and I'm really happy to be here and to be able to share that with your listeners in hopes that, they can take some things away from my experience.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Before we jump into the topic for today, I would love for you to tell our listeners in your own words, how did you end up here with your business and serving entrepreneurs in the way you did? Because you have a unique background. So why don't you share that with us for a little bit?
Yes, I really do have a diverse background, and each thing has led to another. So right out of high school, I went into the Marine Corps. I had served 4 years. And in looking back on that, I realized how much that shaped me as an adult. That's where I get my confidence from and how I've applied that everywhere. So I went on to a 20-year career in IT, became a software developer. And then I just got to the point where I was feeling like I was stifling the best parts of myself. And I really wanted something that was more heart-centered. And so I decided to take a risk and bet on me and start my own business. So that way I could serve others in a way that felt really great and authentic on who I am.
Yes. Okay. So I'm really glad you bet on yourself. And I feel like a lot of listeners are like, that was a scary decision for all of us to make when we decided to leave whatever was behind us, right? For many of us, it was corporate as well. I remember the day that I made that decision, and it was a hard decision to make, but now I look back, it was the best decision I ever made. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. And I was there for 20 years and I kept going through phases and talking myself into it and why I should stay. And finally, I just reached my breaking point and knew that it was time.
It was time. So what was it time to do? So tell our listeners a bit about your business. Who do you serve? And who are your ideal clients?
So I help entrepreneurs who want to take it to the next level, whether that's personally, professionally, mentally. They just need a little help getting there. I find a lot of times, we have that fear and that self-doubt holding us back, having some kind of little obstacle that, sometimes it takes being that strategist to see things, especially with my diverse background, that big picture view of all of my experience. I can see things that they can't. To be able to challenge them, have them step up. One of my favorite ways to do that is through my adventure retreats. I love traveling. I love doing different kinds of vacations. And so a lot of times getting them out of their environment, pushing themselves physically, it just frees up those mental blocks so they can take it to that next level.
Yes. So we have the same business coach. I'm sure you have maybe many different ones, but our same business coach we have in common is Todd Herman. And we were in New York this summer at a 3-day workshop training. And I remember chatting with you and you telling me about these retreats. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So you cannot let our listeners go with the suspense, right? So tell us like an example of your last one. Like you just came back from Ireland, right?
Yes. So I took a group to Ireland where we went biking along the coast. And it was really a great experience. We biked from little cute village to little cute village. The people were amazing. Just some of the obstacles that come up that you can't really anticipate. Riding through herds of sheep or getting caught in the rain. It just makes people realize that they're capable of so much more than they ever thought possible.
Yes. Okay. And it wasn't a little bike ride. Like you guys were really pushing yourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, like on every level for this bike ride, right?
Yes. We ended up riding 120 miles throughout the week. And I knew that would be really challenging for some of my guests. But like I said, sometimes you get yourself in these situations and you just have to step up. And that's one thing that I learned in the Marine Corps. That was one reason I chose Ireland too. It's gentle rolling hills. And when you have all day to get somewhere, it's great because you can be like, oh, look at that castle. And you zigzag over and check out a castle. And so it's not like this race. You're just spending your day on the bike.
Okay, that is amazing. Okay, so I hope that everyone can just envision like a group of entrepreneurs running the hills of Ireland together, just really pushing themselves out of their comfort zone. I saw pictures, like you had a lot of rainy days, bikes were falling over, all the things, right? But then so much bliss and being able to see things from a different perspective that you would never see in a bus or a car driving down the road. You were really intimate with the environment, I would assume.
Definitely. And I think that something that people really overlook when it comes to doing these activities is just that meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on the bike and you're just looking around the scenery, the ideas that come up and the aha moments, and you're thinking about your business and your life. And so there's so much growth in that beyond the physical.
Right. Okay, excellent. So I want to start off with you sharing your story of what was a productivity challenge, or what was the productivity challenge that you're going to share with us today that you were experiencing in your business and life, starting out as an entrepreneur. Why don't you dive into that a little bit into your own words, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Health and being physical is such a huge part of who I am. And when I was in corporate, I had my routine totally dialed in. The last 2 years were really stressful. And so I kind of got away from that a little bit. So when I decided to become an entrepreneur, I thought, this is going to be great. 24/7 to decide what I want to do. I'll have time to go to the gym, all these things that I could refocus on my health. And I just started to struggle once I had that free time.
Unlimited time is the enemy of a lot of people. We think that's what we want. And yet it's kind of like the wheels fall off the car, right?
Yes. Like I like to say, it's like getting lost at sea. You have this whole sea of time. And so I was definitely struggling, and that impacted my confidence. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, like that's such a key part of how you show up. And so it really started to take its toll because I didn't feel like the outside was reflecting on who I thought I was on the inside.
Okay. So share with us, was it an issue of just physical, or were you lacking the energy needed to run your business? What did it feel like when you had this idea that there should be no excuses? Like you have all this time to do this thing, which is work out, and it wasn't a reality for you. So how was that showing up in your business and overall?
So when I was in corporate, like I would go work out every day at lunch. So when I first became an entrepreneur, I was trying that. But when you're on this creative streak and you're writing blog posts and you're on this roll to all of a sudden just like stop and go to the gym, like I come back and I couldn't get into that same space. So then I would try it in the morning, but in the morning, it's just getting going and you're thinking all these things you have to do for your business. Like that was hard too. So finding just the right time of day that was going to work with me was the biggest issue. And then it just started to snowball into other areas.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally understand that. I actually was thinking of doing an episode called The Entrepreneur 30 because you always hear the freshman 15, and mine was more like 30 pounds when I decided to become an entrepreneur. I'll give you another example. I was prepping my son for some questions at school because they wanted to get to know him. And he's always watched me in my business. And I said, all right, well, why don't you have them ask you what is something you've learned about business? He's like, okay, yeah. And I was like, well, what would you say? And he goes, that you're in front of the computer a lot. Now, that's his perspective of my business, because I certainly am in front of the computer a lot, right? My business is super virtual. I literally pop in and out of businesses all over the country. But that's like his 8-year-old perspective, which isn't wrong, which can have a huge impact on our physical fitness and our energy and all the things, right? I can totally relate to your struggle. And I think that there's a lot of other people that can relate as well. Now, do you think that it ended up being a time issue, or do you feel like this was a priority thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I got this baby business, it's got to grow up really fast and replace my corporate income? Were those stresses, do you think, having an impact on where you were investing your time?
Somewhat. Like I found that a lot of that pressure was gone. Because when I was in corporate, I had that window of lunch. And if I didn't go then, that was it. And so when I would be having my coffee in the morning, I'm writing a blog post, I didn't feel that same pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an aspect of it. The second, feeling like almost guilty a little bit, just like, oh, I really need to do this. And just that overwhelm of all the things that need to get done as, a solopreneur when you're getting started. And so that, and just the schedule, just finding that right time that would work for me.
Okay, excellent. All right, so what was that moment where you're like, or maybe it wasn't a moment, you let us know, but what was that transition from, okay, this reality is not working, I'm not feeling great, I know I want to work out, it's not my current reality. So what did it take for you to make that shift for you personally?
I was just putting on more and more weight, and then I was struggling losing the weight. It was really easy to get into that thing like, well, you're getting older. And I started like letting myself go there. And I finally just got frustrated with myself. Like, I know better than that. Age is just a number. And until I'm doing the exact same things I was doing before and not seeing an issue, that is not a problem. And so I just kind of reached the breaking point. And I just decided that no matter what, I was going to the gym at 3:00 before the rush. That gave me enough time to get stuff done in the morning that I didn't feel that guilt. And that's finally what has worked for me, probably about the last year and a half.
Year and a half. And then, so how long have you been in business so far?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. So you actually gave us the aha, which is your new routine is 3 p.m., which is freaking hilarious because the only options we were talking about earlier were lunchtime, morning time. And I'm thinking after work because she wants to get her creative. So now you said smack in the middle of the afternoon. So are you there with just a lot of other business owners? like you're really got the gym to yourself at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Yeah. So it's really helpful because I just find that there's just that enough space that I can kind of decompress. And a lot of times it helps me recharge to take on some other things once I'm finished. But at least that way I know I get it done.
Okay, so you found your groove because you wanted to have the gym to yourself with not a lot of people, wasn't super busy, but it also fit in with your schedule, I guess. Are you done with work at 3 o'clock or do you go back and work a little bit when you're done with the gym?
Yeah, sometimes I don't go back. Like it just find like especially winter. Like winter's always hard. It's a snowy night. You start having that comfort food. But a lot of times it will just recharge me, allows my brain to come down off of all the mental tasks that I'd been working on. So I'll go do like follow up or tech stuff where I don't necessarily need to have that creative space.
Yes. And so are you currently feeling the pull of like if you're in your zone or you're up against a deadline, like, okay, I don't want to stop, I want to push through. Are you feeling that struggle or is it now like an ingrained routine where at 3 o'clock you're there?
Now it's an ingrained routine. Like sometimes I push it closer to 4, but I just know that if I do that, the gym's going to be busy. It's going to take me longer to get to my workout. I won't have as good of a workout. That's really what I try to stick with.
Okay, that's awesome. So now you have struggled with working out and having your routines within business. And, a lot of this is just talking about like the need to be physically fit and have that time to invest in ourselves. But really, what I'm hearing from you is that this was like figuring out your routines. Have you discovered that there was other routines in your life that you had to figure out after leaving corporate and having that really structured life to really like having all this freedom with your time?
Yes, definitely. Food became another one because when I was in corporate, I would take a salad every day for lunch. And because I was lifting weights during the lunch, when I get back to my desk, I had to eat my salad. And a lot of times I wasn't in the mood for a salad, but at that point, that was all I had. And so when I'm home all day with my refrigerator and I would buy stuff for salads, and next thing you know, I'm throwing out veggies and I'm driving to Chipotle. I started to struggle with that. And so once I got the workout routine in, then I knew I needed to tackle the nutrition.
Yes, I can totally relate. My fridge is like right down the hall from where we're recording right now, right? You get that sudden craving when our energy drops for maybe sugar or something salty. And I've had to really work on that because you literally have access to it. So my goal is just as often as possible not to have it in the house because it's too darn close wherever it is in the house to just go with it. But what I have enjoyed doing is because we cook dinners and I cook more so that my husband takes it to lunch and then I just kind of commit to eating that for lunch. And we're always looking to eat healthy dinners. So it really goes off the rails if we decide to eat out during the week for some reason. And then I'm like, what am I going to eat? And you just kind of like mindlessly go into the kitchen for whatever is there.
I do the same thing. Like if I'm going to take the time to cook, I will cook for 3 or 4 days because I don't mind eating leftovers. It just helps free up that mental energy.
Yeah, and it's totally the best way of batching. It reclaims time too. I love it. I love it. Okay. So do you have any other hacks or tips that you can share with us about what it took for you to create this new routine? You go from your structured routine to finding your new routine. My guess is that you had to try a lot of things, kind of like, kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince. Like you had to try a lot of routines to find the one that stuck, right?
Yes. So one thing that I've done that has worked really well for me that was an unexpected surprise was intermittent fasting. Like right now, it's really trendy. It's on. But the reason I love it is that as an entrepreneur, I can get up in the morning. I have my day already planned for me, and I can just start working. I don't have to think about food in any way, and it allows me to get some things done before I have to go, look into the fridge and get those leftovers. So that was a pleasant surprise, just doing intermittent fasting for my health.
Okay, so I am not familiar with that. So I'm just not trendy, I guess. But what is it and how long are you fasting? So is it kind of like adding hours to the day because you didn't eat all night anyways kind of thing?
Most people will stop eating after, say, 7 p.m. and then they don't eat again until like 11 a.m. And so that's, a 16-hour fast. gives your digestion a break. It allows your immune system to improve. So there are a lot of benefits behind it. It won't slow down your metabolism. In fact, a lot of professional athletes will use it. And so you can vary with what your eating window is based on your lifestyle.
Right. Okay. So the question I would be having if I was driving down the street listening to this is, does it affect your energy level, right? Because we get energy from food and that's essentially why we're even supposed to eat. So now you're fasting. Do you feel like you don't have energy in the morning?
Actually, it's just the opposite. I find I actually have more energy. A lot of times those things that we're eating, especially if it's just a lot of carbs, because they're the quick snack kind of thing. Carbs are the easiest thing to do. And it really can make people sluggish without realizing it's making you sluggish.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely find that it really doesn't impact when you first start, it can be a little difficult because you're not used to it, but you just gradually make your fasting window longer and longer and you'll get used to it.
Right. Okay. So if you're new to Productivity Straight Talk, you may have not heard my journey with health, but I have plenty of episodes on it and I'll link to them in the show notes. I actually brought in my own doctor and we talked about my journey through finding energy and improving my health. And so some of the things that I've been dealing with is inflammation. And then also finding out that I had a gluten intolerance that created inflammation in my body. So I did it for health reasons because I had 2 sinus surgeries within a year and I was just chronically having sinus infections and the root of it was inflammation. When I cut gluten out, it cuts a lot of carbs out, right? And I had realized that gluten literally made me so tired. And that was my reality for a long time was this sluggish feeling. And so me just experimenting with what worked with my body, cutting gluten and dairy out had actually released all this energy that I didn't realize I was missing because I think it kind of gradually happens. I didn't always have an intolerance or a reaction to gluten. And so at some point in my life, I did. And I think looking back, it was a gradual experience because I don't remember just one day suddenly eating and just being tired. I think it was eating and just a little bit tired and a little more tired and a little more tired until it became my norm. I share that because sometimes we get really comfortable with what's normal for us and we don't demand something better, right? It just becomes normal. And now looking back, I'm oh my gosh, I wish somebody would have told me that I was possibly doing something every single day that was affecting my energy. My advice is find your thing. If you feel you're consistently don't have energy, I think the first place is to look is obviously getting some sort of exercise and moving your body and then looking at what you're eating and just observing, maybe even journaling. Are you eating breakfast and already feeling tired? Are you not a breakfast person, eat lunch and then want to take a nap? That's a good clue that what you're eating is totally affecting your energy. So I love that you shared some of the behind the scenes of how you're managing your energy with food as well.
Well, and I think a lot of times, especially as women, it's just really easy to justify how you're feeling. You chalk it up to, well, I didn't get a good night's sleep, or I'm really stressed out, or the kids kept me up last night, or, just whatever it is. Allowing ourselves to feel tired, it just feels normal. Like you said, it's just something that just happens with life, and it's just really easy to keep brushing off.
Age is just a number, right? My husband and other men that I know too, while they may not have the same words around it, they're I'm working really hard. I'm just tired. I'm getting older. I'm just tired. And I think that it's become normal to have that conversation or just feel that way. But I don't think it needs to be everyone's normal. And I guess if I had a PSA, a public service announcement here, is that if you're feeling that way, I encourage you to go find ways in which that's not your reality. I teach a lot about obviously a lot about productivity. That was a weird statement, but time management, but really it's energy management, right? I think that we can all say, you had a sea of time, right? So it wasn't a time issue. It was a commitment issue to invest your time in the right place. And for a lot of people that aren't working out, it's an energy. I just don't have the energy to get up and go to the gym or to do the thing. I think that also shows up in our businesses. Is that we have the time, right? But we don't have the energy to push through or to continue or to work through the entire day or whatever that looks like for all of us. Would you agree that it's an energy management thing?
Oh, definitely. And men, they struggle with their hormones too. It's not as prevalent and talked about as much as women, but I have several friends that they finally got checked and realized they were also having some issues. And as a man, the pride that's there, that can be difficult, but there's nothing to be ashamed of, especially if you're really working hard to be better and feel your best.
Yes. Okay. So we have literally kind of gone left on this topic, which is really cool. I kind of love these organic conversations. I will link to it in the show notes because I wasn't expecting to talk about this. So I don't have the episode number, but I did interview my doctor and we were talking about my hormones. Ultimately, our food is affecting our chemistry, affecting our hormones, and our hormones are affecting our energy. And it's this vicious cycle that I have learned a lot about in the last 18 months. And so I had her on to share with us ways to improve that. And she spoke about that for men and women. And that women are now more open to the conversation, like you said, but men think they have no hormones. I don't know. Maybe they do or maybe they don't, but they absolutely do. It's just different hormones, right? And they can have just as powerful effects on their energy.
Yes. And I think a lot of times too, people forget that hormones really impact your mood. And as entrepreneurs, so many struggle with self-doubt and fears. And when you're just not emotionally feeling great, it's really easy to talk yourself out of the things that you need to do the most for your business.
Yes.
It's just another thing that snowballs into your confidence and the impact that it can have.
Very, very well said. All right, Tami. So you've shared with us that your breakthrough was you hit rock bottom. You've decided you were going to try a bunch of different routines. You found the perfect time in the day to go to the gym, which was 3:00. Fast forward for us. You said that was about 1.5 years ago. So fast forward to us today and share with us the impact that has had on your business and your life to break through that productivity barrier of just not working out, not having that element in your life.
Once I got back to feeling how I used to feel. And so that's really snowballed into my confidence. It's allowed me to really just work on that mindset and show up differently because I know that now it's much more reflective of who I am. So I've taken a lot more risks this year. I've surrounded myself with, incredible people like yourself in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And just playing a bigger game. And so it's so much more rewarding. Each step that I take, it allows me to lend a hand to my clients and help them along the way.
Oh my gosh. I love that we're having this conversation because when I was struggling with my issues, I had gained 40 pounds. It was inflammation and then, some of the medicine that I was on. And I remember not feeling great about going to do a presentation or as bubbly as I had once been and wanting to meet and talk to everybody and not comfortable in my own clothes. And I love that you're kind of opening that conversation and saying you didn't feel yourself, whether that was physically or emotionally, because it affects our emotions and how that can sabotage our businesses. Because as entrepreneurs, we are the voice and the face of our businesses. And if we're not willing to go speak in front of people or go meet a new person or just to feel comfortable, people pick up on that energy and they're not going to want to be like, what you got going on? I want more of that, because you're thinking, I don't want more of this. So I think that is a really good point in the fact that if we're feeling like we're not able to show up as our best selves, what are we willing to do to ensure we're showing up as our best selves?
Yeah, definitely. And I also found that when I first started my business, retreats were something that I wanted to do at some point. And now this past year of really having my health dialed in and feeling more like myself, it's allowed me to say okay, now this is the time, and to pull in adventure retreats into my business. And so I never want my health to be an obstacle to an opportunity. Because as you know, things come up that they weren't on your radar, you weren't planning for, all across the board. But you never want to have to say no because you can't physically.
Yes. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I said no because I couldn't physically do the 100 and something miles. I remember having that conversation with you. I said, okay, so what's your next adventure? Because I rode a bike recently in San Francisco and I paid for it for days later. I was like, I don't have a steel buns like that to be able to ride a bike that long. So that's a good example of my physical limitations getting in the way of a great opportunity.
Yeah. And the thing is, there is the mental aspect of it, because you already made up the story in your head. One of my clients that went, she had only ridden 10 miles before going on the trip. And she was terrified about the bike, but she did it. And on day one, she was like crying. She's like, thank you so much for talking me into this because I'm having the time of my life. And at the very end, I hugged her and I said, I'm so proud of you. And I just held her. She cried.
Oh my gosh.
I just realized like how much more I can be doing.
Yes. And thank you for calling me out on my stories. That's brilliant. I love surrounding myself with people that do not listen to my stories and call me out on any bullshit, because when we have stories, like we really believe them. Like if you would have dug into this, right, I would have told you how bad I hurt after my last bike trip, how miserable I felt, like the whole thing, because I would affirm the story. But the truth is that would I have done it if I had landed in Ireland with a bike and no other transportation? I would have figured it out, right?
Well, and I have my own stories with different aspects that I make up, but that was one gift that I had gotten from the Marine Corps, is just that resiliency. Like, I just know I'm going to be fine. Will I be miserable? Yeah, maybe, but I can always make it through.
Oh my gosh, that's so well said. I'm so happy that you had that great experience with, well, I'm sure you had great experiences with all of your guests, but with her having that huge transformation. And I can only imagine, because I've had experiences not similar to that physical, but in my life where I'm like, I didn't think I could do that. Oh my gosh, I did that. If I did that, what else can I do? And then you start questioning everything that you believed because of any kind of limits that you had put on yourself, because you just saw yourself break through something big. And I'm sure that's the gift she felt, right? Like she's going to go back and like do big things.
Definitely. As entrepreneurs, like so many want to do more public speaking, and they're absolutely terrified of it. And so it's the same thing. You do your first little speaking engagement, you realize like, oh, I actually did okay. They liked what I had to say. And so it just allows you to keep going and, getting more speaking opportunities. So it's the same way when it comes to the physical aspect. But that's what I love about this, is you can start to see the lessons and how it applies in other areas. You just have to be having fun and traveling while you're figuring that out.
Yes. I actually used to be a bit of an introvert in school when I was younger, and I love to speak, right? And I don't really take the time to think about that transformation, because a lot of the people I circle myself around are speakers. Like they speak, they're entrepreneurs, they're speakers. I have been very involved in National Speakers Association, my local chapter. And so then your perception and your reality changes. Like I think everybody speaks. So if I find someone that doesn't speak, I'm like, that's weird, but it's not. That's actually normal. We're the weird ones that are like, oh, I want to speak, and I'm not fearful of it. You're still going to have butterflies and knots in your stomach and all that kind of sweaty palms. It still happens to me too. But at the end of the day, I truly enjoy it. And at some point, I figured it out, because I was someone that did not just talk to everybody at one point in my life.
Yes. And I think just as entrepreneurs, we are forced to face things like that every single day in some capacity, whether it's interviews like this or on stage or just putting yourself out there on social media.
Yes. Tami, I often refer back to my business. It feels like I've been in business forever, but it's been 6 years, a little over 6 years. And I just had actually reminisced yesterday over my first business picture, and I was looking at it. I remember that person. I remember her. The growth that I've had over the last 6 years has been just exponential. Like I would have never envisioned who I am today and what I feel like I can accomplish today was even a speck in my eye the first day I decided to start my business 6 years ago. And that is a gift about entrepreneurship. I think it's the biggest personal development journey ever. And I see it that way every single day.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm that same way. And so many people wait to have all the answers before they take that risk and decide to start their own business. But the thing is like now I've gotten so much more comfortable with not having all the answers. That's just one more level of growth. And it excites me to not know. I just have to know a few steps ahead of me and just keep going.
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me. That was a huge aha. I do remember thinking, what if someone asked me something I don't know? Like I felt like I had to know it all. And just growth in my business and experience is like, yeah, that's not my lane. Sorry, don't know that answer. And I might not ever think about it again, or I'll come up across things all the time that I don't know. And now I'm either going to find someone that can help me, because I'm going to ask for help, Or I put it on my list of things that I'm going to learn because I feel like if I learned it, it would help me grow my business. But that's not the perspective I had on those things. I was fearful of the things that somebody might find out I don't know when I first started my business, for sure.
Yeah. And that's why so many businesses fail in the beginning. But once you really get comfortable in your own skin and who you are and confident in what you're delivering, then it's okay to push those things away because they're just a distraction.
Okay, Tami, you're dropping bomb after bomb. Like, I am immensely aware of shiny object syndrome. All my clients have experienced it. I've experienced it at points in my business. I have never rooted one of the reasons being that it's wanting to seek knowledge that we're fearful we don't have. We're going to take this course and we're going to do that thing. Like, I've always called courses shiny objects, but I never really rooted it down into the fact that it might just be the fear of not knowing something.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay. All right, Tami. That was a good one. That's awesome. Okay. So if our listeners want to find out more about you, and I know you've got some great new things coming up and programs and in addition to your retreat. So if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
So I generally hang out on Facebook. You can find me as Tami McVay Mentor. My website as well, just TamiMcVay.com.
Okay, excellent. We'll make sure that we link to all of this in the show notes. And I believe you said you had something a little special for our listeners today.
Yes, I created 3 surprising tricks to boost productivity. And it was really fun putting this together for your audience because it just made me realize that these things that people talk about all the time, that those were the things that were impacting my productivity, that people don't look at it from a productivity perspective.
Oh, so all right. So we have to opt in to find out what these secret productivity solutions are. Okay, excellent. And where can they get that?
TamiMcVay.com/PST.
PST for Productivity Straight Talk.
Yes.
So I saw that link as we were prepping for this call and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe some other people are calling it PST because that's what we call it internally too. We just refer to it as PST in my team because Productivity Straight Talk is a lot of words. So awesome. So /PST on your website. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Tami, it's been my pleasure to have you on and just have a chat and do this whole discussion about entrepreneurship and some of the struggles that you were open enough to share with us that I think so many entrepreneurs feel, and then sharing with us what that breakthrough has looked like in your business. We really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. I always enjoy talking with you, and then to be able to do it in a way to serve others has been just incredibly rewarding. So
awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode of Productivity Straight Talk and my conversation with Tami. I hope you gleaned some knowledge and value from my conversation. And if at all anything, I know that it is so valuable to know that you're not alone. There are so many times in our business and our lives that we're like, why can't we just do the thing? Maybe the thing is something that you had always done and was part of who you were, just like Tami and working out. And I hope that her story was inspiring to let you know that there is a way forward, that there is a way for you to, well, figure it out. Figure it out so that you can have your best life and best business. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on our conversation with Tami today and what you may have learned, what will you take action on? Maybe my conversation with Tami sparked something, inspired you, made you think of something differently. Whatever that is, don't let that just fly by because this episode is over. I want you to grasp it, hold it in your hand, identify it, and then make a plan on how you are going to implement and execute that in your business and life. It is only through those proactive, conscious choices that we will see the change that we want in our businesses and life. I would love for you to share any insights, learnings, ahas, or actionables that you received from this episode inside our Productivity Straight Talk Facebook community. If you're not already a member, you can join us by going to productivitycommunity.com. Again, that's productivitycommunity.com. It's a completely free Facebook community where we take the conversation from behind the mic and online so that we can have conversations and support each other. Before we close out, I have a special thank you. You guys have been rocking the reviews, but I want you to know that if you're thinking, well, maybe somebody else will leave a review, I want you to know that for those of you that have been listening and getting a lot of value from the podcast and I have served you well, the best gift that you can give me is to go and give me a review. It truly does help the growth of the podcast. It helps people find the podcast and truly know through your voice what they can expect. So if you wouldn't mind, go take a few moments to hop on over to iTunes and leave me a review. Today's special thank you goes out to Courtney Townley, who recently said, Amber has a very refreshing approach to helping entrepreneurs navigate challenges with productivity. She is a great speaker, teacher, and fire starter for those who are seeking to take control over their business and life. Highly recommended. Thank you so much, Courtney, and I appreciate your kind words. Well, that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.